everybody. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. I am just gonna go right in to what I want to talk about today, and that would be just when it comes to the scale. I know a lot of us, especially women, really focus on that number on the scale, what it's telling us, and we kind of perceive that as if we're doing bad or good. And it's really important to realize that the scale is not everything. So the scale has been up the last week or so. It's been kind of all over the place, but for me, the scale was up. I wasn't making the best decisions nutrition wise. I had a lot going on, poor planning, and I was kind of just grabbing whatever was convenient. I hadn't set myself up for success. We really needed groceries, and I kind of let those become an excuse to just eat poorly and not really focus on getting the nutrient-dense food that I needed, and really eating the way that my body needs to be fueled for. And so the scale was up. So yesterday I meal prepped. I spent the day meal prepping. I was on my feet all day. I actually didn't eat. I mean, I ate enough, but I wasn't like eating all day. I actually didn't eat much for lunch. I just had a couple bites of the soup that I was making. And I did have a bigger breakfast, which was 2 pieces of toast with 2 eggs and some cheese. And I fully expected for the scale to be down today, just because I wasn't eating all the junk that I had been eating, and I was really, confident that I was going to see a positive change. And I found myself a little bit frustrated when I stepped on the scale, and it was up almost a half pound. And thinking back, I could have made better choices yesterday throughout the day, and that probably would have helped. But I also didn't let that bother me for too long. Yes, it's disappointing when the scale doesn't go the way that you think it's gonna go, but instead of taking that negativity and maybe letting it snowball and deciding, oh well, if it didn't go down when I was eating smart, what's the point? It stayed the same when I was eating food that wasn't necessarily the best fuel for my body, and what's the point? But instead, I just had this renewed sense of confidence in myself, because in the past I would have let that number on the scale bother me, but instead, seeing that it went up, I was thinking in my head, like, of it as a lesson, and thinking, what could I have done better yesterday that would have impacted the scale? And also, just because the scale was up, like, I still feel good in my body. I still feel confident. I've come so far. And so instead of letting myself slip into a negative mindset, what I did is I really reframed the thoughts that I was having, the split-second thoughts that I was having when I first stepped on. And then I took a picture of when I first started, and then I compared that to today. And it may not be where I want to be, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I have a long way to go, but I've come a long way. And that's the importance of taking pictures, but that's the importance of really realizing that you come so far and looking at it, because we tend to look at things in the long term. Like, we tend to look at the bigger picture, and we forget that we need to take these small steps along the way to get to where we are. And this morning it was really a breakthrough for me as far as that thought process goes, because I have lost 90 pounds, and I tend to forget that it's not always a linear journey, and that sometimes I'm gonna have those moments where I'm human and I stumble along the way, or I get sidetracked, or I'm not thinking of my specific short-term goals or even my long-term goals. And that's one thing that we can do to kind of zone ourselves into how far we've come. So even if you've only lost 5 pounds, or even if you haven't lost any weight, but you're still feeling, positive results as far as energy, maybe it's the way your clothes are fitting, maybe it's the way you're feeling emotionally, maybe like your workouts are like for me, with really making sure that is your time for you, and that you are going to feel better when you finish a workout. And especially if it's a workout that you really enjoy, which should be what you should do, is do these workouts that you really enjoy. So lately I've really been mixing it up on my rest days, trying out different workouts. Turbo Fire is a fun one. It's very fast paced, it's low impact, but it's really high intensity, and it's really a nice change up from what I'm doing. Or even Core de Force, where you're boxing, and you can kind of it helps you zone in. You can get out any frustrations that you have, whether that's in life, or maybe it's with just not seeing results, or whatever. But there's always ways to improve, and there's always ways to look at it as a positive way and rephrase things when they maybe aren't what you thought they were. So when I stepped on the scale today and it was up, I was, I did have that split second of, wow, I ate just whatever, and then it stayed the same, but then it went up when I started, really thinking about my nutrition again. But I also need to remember that I've been on this journey for 3 years, and I'm still learning. Every single day is a learning opportunity to take something negative, positive, something, along the way, and learn more about your body, learn more in depth about your body. And especially being in school, my mind is just like a sponge right now. So while I was frustrated, and that's okay to be frustrated, but you also want to rephrase it and think, what can I do better? How can I improve? And what have I learned from this experience? Because learning something from a negative experience or a frustrating experience is improvement, and it's really going to help you progress to the point where you want to be. And you also need to remember to appreciate how far you've come, because if you don't appreciate how far you've come, you're going to forget the work that you put in. And it's going to feel like it may not have been part of your life, but that's part of the journey. You learn lessons along the way to where you are now, and you'll continue to learn them if you keep progressing and keep improving and keep rephrasing things, saying, okay, yeah, this moment was hard, or I stumbled in this moment, but I learned that I can overcome it, and I can figure out a better way that works better for this part of my journey. Because each and every part of your journey, there's so many phases to it. There's a phase when you're first starting, you're questioning yourself, you're watching the scale like a hawk, you are really trying to figure out just a routine, and trying to get into habits that are going to be good for your journey. And then you get to the middle where you've lost some weight, and but you still have more to go, and maybe what you're doing in the beginning you need to change up, or you're getting bored with that routine and you need to make better habits. You're working on your nutrition, maybe you're bumping up your water, and then eventually you're going to get to that point where you've lost the weight you want to lose, but you still want to tone up, you still want to get stronger, you still want to build that stamina and endurance. And there's always ways to improve along the journey, whether that's lifting heavier weights, whether that's being able to run a specific amount of miles or kilometers, and always keep setting goals. So you're never gonna reach your goal and just stop. You want to reach your goal and set another one, and reach your goal and set another one, because that's what is going to keep you going. That's going to keep you determined to stay on it. Because if you stop and you go back to your old habits, you're going to get back into that old mindset. You're going to get back into that old lifestyle. You're going to gain back the weight. You're going to lose the results that you worked so hard for. So when you start to have those moments of, this isn't working, I'm getting frustrated, things aren't moving, I'm not seeing any results, I feel stagnant, remember that you've already put in so much hard work to get to where you are now. And what is the point of giving up now? Like, what is the point of giving up, period? But like, what is the point of giving up when you come so far already and you know you can go so much further and keep progressing and keep improving and keep really mastering and learning what your body needs, what you can do better, what you need to change up, and keep focusing on, staying in a healthy routine, making yourself a priority, caring for yourself, and then also appreciating each and every step of the journey, because you don't want to forget where you came from, because you don't want to go back there. You don't want to repeat history, especially if you were in a place like I was, where you just didn't feel at home in your own body and you felt, depressed and just trapped. You don't want to go back to that. So that should be a drive for you that makes you think, I don't want to be back in that position, so I need to keep pushing on, and I need to learn about my body and what's best for it. Because as long as you're progressing, you're learning, and there cannot be failure when you're learning a lesson. And you're going to stumble along the way, and it's going to get hard. But you need to keep going, and you need to keep pushing, and you need to keep that why really at the forefront of your mind, because we know that when you're, progressing in your journey, other parts of your life tend to follow, and you tend to progress and learn about other parts of your life, and you learn about yourself from the inside out. You're working from within, and while you're transforming your body from the outside, you're transforming it from the inside. So that's really important to keep remembering that, and to remember that maybe when you're not seeing great results, and you're doing the work on the outside, that maybe there's something from the inside. Maybe your mindset needs something, a boost or something like that. And that, positive mindset is positive results. So you need to keep that in mind and really focus on how far you've come. And while it's hard to forget the small steps along the way, they are the most important steps to get to those bigger goals. And we need to keep those small steps maintainable, and we need to keep them attainable. We need to make sure that we set realistic short-term goals and take those stepping stones to get to those bigger results. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. So much for tuning in today and sharing this time with me. Please stay tuned for future episodes and check out my podcast.